What is going on, guys? I am proud to announce that I'm going to start a brand new series on this channel where it's going to be my ultimate goal to make you better at Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. In this video, I'm going to highlight 5 essential tips that you can start using today to instantly improve your game. And I'd like to also note that these tips are for anybody, whether you're just getting started with Call of Duty or if you've been playing for a long time. These are 5 things that I try to do in every single match, and it helps me get good gameplay. Alright, so let's get started. With the first tip, it seems pretty obvious, but it is to look at your mini-map. I noticed that a lot of people, my friends that I play with, and I can tell that my teammates definitely don't use it, is nobody ever really looks at the minimap. I use my minimap constantly. Every single time I get a kill, I'm looking at the minimap. Every time I spawn in, I'm looking at the minimap. Anytime I'm trying to figure out where to go next, I use the minimap. I'm telling you, I look at this thing constantly. And the way I do it is I kind of figure out, like first you spawn in and I kind of see where I am. I look at where my teammates are, kind of like where they're going. And then I see where the enemy is, and I'm trying to position myself in a place that I'm going to be able to get a better angle on an enemy, or I'm going to be able to capture an objective. And especially in maps like Miami, where it's pretty often that the entirety of both teams are on one side. Like Miami, it's always that the left side by like the beach. Whenever that happens, I always try and flank around the right side, maybe see if I can kind of look through the middle of the map and see if I get an angle on anybody, or even sneak all the way around. I'm constantly kind of using the minimap to try and flank and get a better position. Which leads me to my next tip, which is to move after every single kill. Not like dramatically move, but at least don't stay in the same position, because he's likely going to have a teammate behind him. And that teammate just saw you fire off a round, and they probably have a pretty good idea on like where exactly you are. Especially in search and destroy or something like that, where people are calling out people constantly. You always want to stay moving. You always want to keep the other team guessing. This is really helpful in like 1v4 situations, or 1v3, or 1 versus whatever. Whenever you're like the last guy in your team and you're playing search and destroy or Warzone and everybody's coming after you, you want to make it feel like they're fighting more than one person with your movement. And you do this by like, you fire a few rounds into somebody, hopefully you kill them, and then you quickly dart around the other side and try to get an angle on somebody else. And then you quickly, flip back to where you were. And you want to always keep the other team guessing, and you do this just with your movement. And my third tip, it seems obvious, but look up. And what I mean by that is you always want to have your crosshairs angled a little bit above the center of your screen. This gives you a huge advantage by not having to spend, it's a small amount of time, but it matters a lot whenever you compare it to like the short time to kill in the game. But you don't have to spend like an extra, 200 milliseconds looking up. And, it takes a while for you to angle your crosshairs from looking at the floor to looking where you should be shooting them in the upper chest. And it's also going to help you avoid shooting people in the legs whenever they jump around the corner and you start to panic because you weren't paying attention. And especially with like people jump in this game so often that if you angle your shots like a little bit up and hopefully you're shooting them in the upper chest area, whenever they jump, you're just going to shoot them in the stomach. And no, it's not as going to be powerful as, shooting them in the upper chest, but you'll probably still get the kill. Whereas if you're looking down, you're shooting them in the legs and they jump, well, now you're going to miss them entirely. Or if you're shooting them in the stomach and they jump, now you're shooting them in the legs and they're going to get that kill. So always be looking up, always be making sure that you're aiming your crosshairs where you expect people to be, especially in points that like a lot of times people use the same cover in every single multiplayer map. So make sure you're always looking at those spots, always checking those spots, and make sure you're doing it with your crosshairs instead of just your eyes, so that if they are there, you're already ready and able to react to it instantly. The fourth tip is to avoid 50-50 gunfights. I do this a lot. I try my best to stay out of 50-50 gunfights. I want the only reason for me to die is if the guy is just straight up better than me. or he ended up getting the better angle on me and I didn't expect him to be there. And what I mean by 50-50 gunfights is you want to avoid... Sorry about that, guys. My gameplay that I play in the background crashed. So I guess forget about the 50-50 gunfights. Just stop buying Treyarch games because they don't know how to make Call of Duty. I'm kidding. Anyway, well, not really. But anyway, so back to avoiding 50-50 gunfights is, what I mean by that is whenever you don't have cover and the guy that you're going up against doesn't have cover, that's 50-50. Or whenever you do have cover and the guy you're going up against has the same amount of cover, that's 50-50. That one probably happens more often than not. That's the one that I really try to avoid, especially like the start of the map. Whenever if you're walking through like either the right side or the left side, the first thing people are gonna do is rush up to that cover and try and shoot the guy that rushed up behind the cover on his side. You know, it's on every single multiplayer map. I always try and avoid those gunfights. Like I said, they're 50-50, so you're gonna have a 1 KD. Everybody wants above a 1 KD, so we should avoid those. And in addition to this, it's just kind of like I said with the movement and everything, you always want to have some sort of advantage on somebody. You never... My controller. Okay. Oh, the universe really just hates this 50-50 gunfight tip. I don't understand it. I feel like it was the most important one. But anyway, that's kind of like my play style, is always trying to avoid those gunfights. I always try to make sure that I have some sort of an advantage on the opposing player. Sometimes you can't do that, but just kind of do what you can. Another, like, a way to avoid this is kind of like, if you see a teammate kind of run into a room and you know like one guy is going to be there, run in there with him at the same time. That way you guys have a clear advantage. You know, at least one of you is going to be able to take him out. And with the last tip, it's going to be a little bit more controversial, just because it kind of goes against like the narrative that YouTubers and TikTokers and everything have been doing lately. And that is, they've just been like full throttle pushing out a new meta loadout every single day. My last tip is to stop copying these loadouts. You're not going to get used to the gun that you're using, and you're not going to be able to, you know, put enough time into a gun to understand its recoil pattern. So if you stick with the same gun, it's going to be better over time in the long term, and you want to build your class based on your play style and what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. A lot of YouTubers and Twitch streamers and stuff, they have a very entertaining play style, and it's over aggressive. And so their gun builds are normally built for being very aggressive. They normally have like a fast ADS speed, they're light, they're good for close range gunfights. And I think that if you don't get in a lot of close range gunfights, then don't use a close range gun. You know, like for me, for example, I don't get into a ton of close range gunfights. Most of my gunfights are like medium to long range, so I normally use like a versatile assault rifle like the M4. That's what I use in Black Ops Cold War. That's what I used in Modern Warfare. And I always just try to, that's kind of my playstyle. I always use like a very versatile assault rifle that's good at pretty much everything. You know, it's good at close range, it's good at medium range, it's good at long range. It doesn't really dominate in any of those categories, but it competes in every single one. And that's, you know, that's my playstyle. If you have an aggressive playstyle, use an SMG. If you have more of like, lack for a better word, like a campy, scared playstyle, maybe use, honestly, an LMG. You don't need to use all your movement, and you need something that's going to be able to put high-powered rounds downrange very accurately. And I think an LMG is the best way to do that. So that kind of wraps up all 5 tips. I hope these tips work for you guys. If they don't, and you're in the comments, you're like, Exodus, I used all your tips and I'm still no good at the game. I've got one last tip for you, and that is to stop showering, stop paying for the water bill. You can take all the money that you saved off the water bill and you can start buying G Fuel. And you can snort that G Fuel, you can inject it in your veins until eventually you have higher than a 1.5 KD, and Treyarch is going to throw you in the pro lobby with everybody else that has a 1.5 KD or above. And at that point, you might as well just uninstall the game because you're not going to be able to compete. And there you have the daily rant for today. Anyway, guys, I hope these tips helped you. Comment below what your favorite tip was. If you enjoyed this video, like it. And if you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on my notifications. Thank you guys, and have a great day.